All right, this interview is supposed to be heated. We're gonna react to it raw. I have some serious thoughts about this Vivek character, specifically about his past. I think he's done some shady stuff in terms of building his wealth. You know, that's just part. Okay, I'm not a Vivek hater. I actually think a lot of what he says really resonates and probably has some real merit. Of course, some ideas need to be developed, but look, I think I'm reasonably neutral here. Like, there are things I really love, there are things I'm skeptical about, and there are things in this past that I'm kind of like, I don't know, man, that's shady. You know, that about probably sums up how everybody feels about every politician, so I don't think that's terribly biased. So let's go ahead and listen to what this guy says. The title here is "This is Awkward for You," Mehdi Hasan's takes on Vivek in new interview. Okay, yeah, are we ready for this? I'm ready for it. Here we go.
You have probably seen all you care to see of Vivek Ramaswamy lately. That is because his campaign for the Republican nomination for president is entirely based on his getting as many media hits as possible, including appearing yesterday on the show of a YouTuber with a history of really gnarly anti-Semitic posts. The fast-talking Ramaswamy, who Chris Christie famously said sounds like ChatGPT, always appears unbothered by his stream of contradictions and falsehoods, never really gets nailed down long enough to be caught in them. But until today, Ramaswamy had not gone up against one interviewer in particular, one who is built for just this sort of situation, MSNBC's own Mehdi Hasan. In retrospect, he probably should have kept it that way.
So, Mehdi, I've made this really easy for everybody, and I did this in the early weeks of the campaign. I released 20 years of tax returns.
Yes, you did.
Something that no presidential candidate, let alone somebody who's successful in business, has done. I challenge Democrats and Republicans alike, including the Biden family, to do it.
Exactly. We have 2009
But the fact of the matter is, you know what I would advise every 24-year-old should take $50,000.
Yep. And 2010, you made $750,000. You had the money to pay for law school. You didn't need a Soros affirmative action scholarship that you now criticize.
I mean, none of this is worthy, but if you think it is, let's get to the detail. That was actually the first big piece of money.
You say you're anti-affirmative action. You took a scholarship for immigrants.
I'm anti-affirmative action.
So why did you take a scholarship for the children of immigrants?
Which falsehood would you like me to address? The financial one or the one about my views on affirmative action? Because I can go in whichever order you'd like. On the financial piece of it, not at the time that I had applied for the scholarship that fall.
Yes, you did.
That December.
Yes, you did, Vivek. This is awkward for you because you did.
You can watch that full interview today on YouTube.
All right, let's give some thoughts on this. So here's the thing. When you become a Soros fellow, and these are at least the current numbers, each fellow receives up to $90,000 of financial support over 2 years. Vivek Ramaswamy did become a Soros fellow. Now, George Soros is an interesting character. He's basically a massively influential philanthropist. And the reason he's so massively influential is because he's got a lot of money. Oh my God, imagine that. When people have a lot of money, they have they have influence. Yeah, that's essentially the way it works. Now, Elon Musk is not very happy about this guy, and we'll touch on that as well in this video. But what's important to remember is that Vivek went to a very expensive school. Vivek went to Harvard and Yale. He went to Yale Law School, graduated from Yale Law School in 2013, Harvard in 2007. And Vivek here argues, well, you know, I wasn't making that much money working for the hedge fund that I was working for, which ended up funding my Riovant startup, where, you know, we basically took a failed drug and rebranded it as a success and then raised hundreds of millions to billions of dollars, and that was the start of Vivek's path to becoming a billionaire, which again is the path that pisses me off, because Vivek's like, oh, well, you know, 99% of Alzheimer's drugs failed. Yeah, but you also knew that the one that you were reinterpreting the results for was already a failure. You just created a poster and listed this new company on the New York Stock Exchange and then pumped it up on Jim Cramer's show to make it seem like a success and pretend it was a success when you knew it was a failure. That's part of the shady past that pisses me off. You could watch all that in detail on my channel. Just type in Meet Kevin Vivek. By the way, we've reached out to their campaign multiple times to get their side of it. They refuse to directly talk to us about it. Instead, they will release videos on the internet just saying, well, 99% of drugs failed. We've done other successful drugs. When the reality is, even these other successful drugs, at least some of them, if not all of them, we're still working on the research on it, but at least some of them were already approved drugs in other countries that companies just partnered with Vivek on to market in the United States, which is a way of saying, like, he didn't actually develop drugs, he's just a good drug marketer. But anyway, it's worth noting that if you apply for a scholarship and you get it, most people are going to take the money. Even if you're making 750 grand, you get $90,000 to pay for 2 years of your Harvard education, which at the time is probably $35,000 to $45,000. You're probably going to take it. So I think it is pretty clear here. Yeah, sorry, Vivek. You're probably going to take a slight L on this one. Is that actually really going to hit him in the long term? Probably not. It's not that big of a deal. So I don't know that this is like, oh my gosh, the smoking gun for the failure of it. This is no impact. The fact, if anything, more people are just going to talk about Vivek. It's just going to help him. So I don't actually think that MSNBC clip is really that big of a deal. I do think what's actually interesting, though, is talking about Soros. Soros, by the way, $8.6 billion net worth. The guy is 93 years old. He's been characterized as this like extreme leftist because he donates to like BLM and other more like police, like relative defund the police style initiatives, which he argues, well, it's not defund, it's fund for community policing and stuff like that. He's considered one of the most generous givers, which the last person people have associated being the most generous giver with was Sam Bankman-Fried. This guy started a hedge fund in the 70s known as the Quantum Fund. Started with $12 million in 1970 when he was 40. That works out to about a 13.8% compounded annual rate of return if you bring that out to his current net worth right now. Potentially a little bit higher, given that he's probably already donated a substantial portion of his net worth. So he's done pretty well. But anyway, he's basically been characterized as the puppet behind any big liberal plan. And that's why like people hate being associated with him on the right. And that is something that people like to say is that, oh, well, Vivek is Soros-backed. It's true, he was a Soros fellow. But that was also when he was in college, so his opinions could have changed since then. And pretty much everybody who goes to college is in a liberal institution. Almost every college leans left. That's just sort of the college system, the way it is. Here's what Vivek in full says about the Soros issue. So I went straight to this part so we could listen to his Soros response. It's really important to know, going into this, that people regularly try to argue, this is so normal. Oh, it was actually George's brother. Yes, Paul and Daisy offer the Fellowship for New Americans for immigrants and immigrant children. Yes, Paul Soros is known as the silent brother, almost by design to make it seem like they don't work together. Obviously, you've got one group of people that say, well, no, they're separate. They don't. They operate separately. And another group of people who say, dude, come on, it's the same thing. It's just important to know, and so we're adding the context that yes, there's George Soros, which is the one that basically everybody's frustrated by. That's your sort of Musk angry person or whatever. Then there's the silent side, which is still in the Soros family. It's just the brother, Paul and Daisy Soros Foundation. So let's listen to Vivek's response here. It doesn't make, in my opinion, much of a difference from all of the facts that we were talking about here. But let's just add it so we could just hear his point of view and add the appropriate response color. So let's go ahead and play that now.
But it was actually Paul and Daisy Soros. It was his brother. They call him the invisible Soros in some news things. And you got a scholarship. Was it in 2011 to go to law school?
2010,
From
when I applied for it.
Paul and Daisy Soros. So what have you been telling people about that? Because obviously a lot of people are skeptical.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I'd say my advice to everybody is be skeptical of anybody who's telling anything when they're running for office. Here's the facts. I was 24 or 25 years old in the fall of 2010 when I applied on a Fridays. When I heard about it, the deadline was Monday. There was classmates who said, oh, there's a scholarship. First time I heard about it, but $50,000, I'm not going to turn that down. In my early 20s, filled out a scholarship application over the weekend. The funder of it, the main funder, not George Soros, but Paul Soros. It's his brother,
Right.
who made his money independently, who, by the way, now is long dead, who funds the scholarship. It's a generic scholarship. Hundreds of kids.
Him dead doesn't matter though. It would be saying like I took a Soros, he's dead now. It's like
you asked me to let you finish, so I'm gonna ask for the same courtesy. If you asked me to explain it, the guy is long dead because I think the big question that comes up is who's the boogeyman pulling the strings, and so the answer is I think it's relevant to know this guy's long dead, made his money independently, has totally different background from George Soros as well, but nonetheless, I wasn't even paying attention to this. I couldn't have told you what George Soros's ties were, let alone George Soros. Why I wasn't paying attention to him. A different guy named Paul Soros is funding the scholarship at the age of 24. I would have had to be an idiot, a fool, to turn down a merit scholarship that you win to help pay for graduate school, as hundreds of other kids win generically. And I'm honest about that. That's exactly what I did. Were there strings attached? No, there weren't. Now, the reason I also bring these other facts up.
Keep in mind, and this is the part that the MSNBC, which we know, propaganda media, okay, people get all mad about the media and stuff like that, whatever. We know the 2009 tax returns were $750K of income at 24, right?
Because I think it's just important for skeptical people to stay skeptical, is that I have no tie to George Soros other than criticizing him. There are other candidates who has tied to George Soros.
Right. And that's the point. That's why I actually, and I want to be clear about this, I'm covering this, but I want to be clear, I don't actually think this is really that big of a deal. I think what's a bigger deal is the Alzheimer's drug, which, again, I've already described my take. His common response, and this is how he regularly responds, is, well, it failed and drugs fail. That's the way pharma works. But you already knew it was a failure. You just rebranded it as a success. That's the problem. We could just quickly listen to this and move on.
Was a drug for Alzheimer's disease. We put it into a subsidiary. It's what we did for all of the drugs. That subsidiary was Axovant. 99.7% of drugs ever tested for Alzheimer's disease have failed. Mine was one of them, one of thousands of drugs. It also failed. Now, when that company went public, I had and Roivant had an opportunity to sell shares in Axovant before the failure. We did not. That's actually remarkable. And that's actually where a lot of straight up falsehood in the last, you can look it up, public filings, everything else.
That part does not matter though, because during the phase 3 development and during, in other words, well, there wasn't really development, it was trials during phase 3 because the drug existed. It was a failure drug, right? So you have to think about it. It's a failure drug, you IPO it. It's worth billions of dollars. What do you do with the value, the market cap of that drug? What do you do with that? Which is now, they had to rebrand the company, gene therapy stock. They had to rebrand it because it was such a failure. They wanted to hide it. Obviously, the internet doesn't forget. But anyway, what do you do for the years that the market cap is high at this company, right? During 2015 to 2017, before you release the phase 3 trials showing that the drug you already knew was a failure, before you release to the world that it was a drug, what do? Well, you end up propping up a brand new company, basically the holding company, Ripoff Sciences, right? And you're able to prop up and build this company, this new company, and get funding for other projects. So in other words, it's kind of like you take a failed drug, you market it as a success, you IPO it. Now the company is worth billions of dollars. With that clout, you go create the rest of your pharma company and go market other drugs because other companies are like, crap, okay, if you can market a failed drug, you can market our drug. And they partner with Vivek on marketing these other drugs. And that's how you build what's now Ripoff Sciences, which is a multi-billion-dollar company. So my whole criticism is that the leverage, the power that this failed drug gave Vivek created the company that he owns now. What, like 10 to 15% ownership now. That's the idea. It doesn't matter that you didn't sell shares. Anyway, so I just wanted to add that color since some people in the comments were confused, thinking that I wasn't fully aware of all these other details. It just doesn't change anything, okay? It still makes me suspicious about his past and his intentions, but it doesn't mean I dislike some of the things that he says. It is also interesting to note, which we may as well just touch on in this video, that Elon Musk is not very happy about Soros. Elon Musk has revealed his plans to potentially even sue a non-government, an NGO, a non-government organization funded by George Soros. That's because Michael Schellenberger recently posted an article discussing basically a George Soros-backed NGO pushing censorship in Ireland, arguing that basically there are differences in the way hate is being reported versus what's actually happening. And this is pissing Elon Musk off because rightfully so, if people are like, oh, hate is rising because of Twitter or whatever, and potentially Elon Musk's involvement, but it's actually not, then the truth is hate isn't going up, but companies are making it seem like they are so they can get more donations, right? The more a company like an NGO can imply there's more hate than is actually happening, the more donations they can get. That's the way it works. If there's no egregiousness, then you don't get donations. Like climate change activists only get donations when they're in the media and there's like some egregious cause that they have to fight. That's how they get donations. Okay, that's how the nonprofit world works. You pay yourself big salaries at nonprofits so that way you profit, but your fund is technically nonprofit. And then you do egregious things to get attention. More attention you get, the more donations you get. Welcome to capitalism in the nonprofit world where you don't have to pay taxes. Anyway, Soros donates to a lot of these different funds. Elon Musk is suggesting, hey, you know, we're going to go after these Soros-backed foundations. He does not like Soros-backed individuals. Elon goes as far as saying X will file legal actions to potentially stop George Soros. That puts a lot of burden on X shareholders, which are probably already not doing well, especially since advertising revenue is down 60%. But keep in mind, being Soros-backed, not a good label. You know who else was Soros-backed? Alvin Bragg. Now they argue, Bragg wasn't directly donated to by George Soros. It was actually the political arm of Color of Change, a progressive criminal justice group that received many millions of dollars from George Soros. And they just happened to contribute millions of dollars of campaign expenses towards Mr. Bragg. So in other words, yes, Bragg was Soros-backed. Anyway, so that kind of puts all of this together for you. Yes, Vivek took scholarship money from Soros. Yes, he was making a lot of money at the time. Is it a big deal? No. Is it going to hurt his candidacy? Not at all.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Which I say, yes, meet Kevin.
Where does this mean we are in the economic cycle? Should we be thinking about buying real estate? Should we be thinking about buying stocks? I have a background in real estate as a real estate agent, real estate broker, real estate investor, a stock market investor, and fund manager.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here?
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Always great to have you on. Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber, Meet Kevin.